Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakakodash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops and elders of GMS, who rule as well. Peace and salutations to the elect. My name is Aina. The title of this video is Top General Cautions War with Iran. All right, and we'll just get into this. Basically, the mighty men of Babylon were born to fight, right? But in this video, this dude is saying, this is the tippity top. This general is basically cautioning. And I say that because there's basically conflicted reports, and it's basically hard to get the truth with them trying to censor, so much. But the general basically cautioned about war with Iran, and then Trump came back and said, basically, no, that's not really what he said. We can fight any war and win any war, So anyway, he cautioned war with Iran, and the whole world is saying that. Every other, retired military analyst, right, even America's allies, so-called allies, and things like that, they're all cautioning war with Iran. So, I believe that the general did say that because it just makes the most sense, right? And he basically said that it'd be a heavy loss, casualties, and things like that. The war would be prolonged, and things like that. And he was just warning against the war. So basically warning against the strikes. And then Trump basically said, if we tell him to strike, he's going to strike, which is the truth, because that's a soldier. All right, soldiers do what they're told. All right, but he can still warn, This is Ecclesiastes chapter 13. Let me just get it from, I'll get it from 21. Matter of fact, I'll get it from 20, because this is Trump whole thing. You don't want to look weak, nothing like that. You don't want to be painted like in a bad picture. That's why the scriptures say, the pride of thine heart have to see thee, right? Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. Esau Edom. This man, he doesn't want to be humiliated. He doesn't want to look weak or anything like that. And all the dude did was caution. Letting like, this is what we, might expect, whatever the case may be. Trump came, and we'll get into all of it, of course. It says, Ecclesiastes chapter 13, verse 20, it says, as the proud hate humility, so do the rich or poor the poor. A rich man beginning to fall is held up of his friends, but a poor man being down is thrust away by his friend. When a rich man is fallen, he hath many helpers. He speaketh things not to be spoken, and yet men justify him. Is that? I mean, on a side note, look at the list, the Epstein list. That's exactly what's happening. Which they hoping for themselves, but you got these maggers who's divided. You got some people not even care. They don't even care about, what's really going on. You have a sprinkled few that's caring, of course. You got to have prophecy fulfilled, uproars of the peoples and things like that. But no one has been arrested. All right. It says, when a rich man is fallen, he have many helpers. He speaketh things not to be spoken, and yet men justify him. The poor man slipped, and yet they rebuked him too. It says, he spake wisely and could have no place. When a rich man speaketh, every man holdeth his tongue. And look what he saith. They stole it to the clouds. And I brought this out because, they're more so listening to the top general that just cautioned against the war, right? Instead of Trump, and that's what's happening. And people are saying, look, your top general, the man who you put in charge, the tippity top, says he's cautioning. It says, when a rich man speaketh, every man holdeth his tongue. And look what he saith. They stole it to the clouds. But if the poor man speak, they say, what fellow is this? And if he stumble, they will help to overthrow him. It says, riches are good. And that was the point. Riches are good unto him that have no sin. And poverty is evil in the mouth of the ungodly. The heart of a man changes his countenance, whether it be for good or evil. And a merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance. A cheerful countenance is a token of a heart that is in prosperity, and the finding out of parables is a wearisome labor of the mind. All right. It says, so it's pretty much like basic sayings. Riches are good unto him that have no sin, and poverty is evil in the mouth of the ungodly. All right. The heart of a man changes his countenance, which is your mind, whether it be for good or evil. So, whatever you're thinking about. It says, in a merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance. So if you're good in your mind, you be cheerful. A cheerful countenance is a token of a heart that is in prosperity. You in good case, whatever the case may be. And the finding out of parables is a wearisome labor of the mind. Thinking. It's just say, and the reading of many books, there is no end. Labor. The scriptures also talk about Esau even being weary in the multitude of his counsels. All right, trying to figure things out. All right, but like I said, the point I went with in 23 when the rich man speaking, and this top general is warning against, going to war with Iran. And now I'll probably play the video towards the end. I'll read these articles. It says President Trump refuted reports Monday that General King, the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has advised the president and other top officials that military action in Iran could pose substantial risk to leave the U.S. entwined in a prolonged conflict in the Middle East. This is Trump. Numerous stories from the fake news media have been circulating stating that General Daniel King, sometimes referred to as Raisin, is against us going to war with Iran. The story does not attribute this vast wealth and knowledge to anyone, and is 100% incorrect. All right, so that's what Trump said. But I mean, the dude said what he said. General King, like all of us, would like not to see war, but if a decision is made on going against Iran at a military level, it is his opinion that it will be something easily won. Trump continued. So that's a direct conflict to what bro said. He cautioned against it. He wouldn't caution if it will be easily won. He have all that pride and was like, yeah, hoorah, let's go, right? Axios first reported that Kane had been more cautious in talks about planning against Iran compared with the lead up to an early January raid in Venezuela, where U.S. so he knew the difference between Iran and Venezuela. It says where U.S. personnel captured that country's leader, Nicolas Maduro, the Joint Chief Chair views a potential major operation against Iran as inviting a higher risk for U.S. casualties, which, that's like obvious. You're going to war. You're going to have casualties, compared to the rate with, Venezuela. I think Trump was like, yeah, I think like one person got shot, some shit he was saying. But he's saying look, this more than one person gonna get shot. So ain't nothing wrong with that. But Trump snapped back like he didn't say none of that, Says Kane, the top U.S. military official, has voiced similar warnings during meetings at the Pentagon and the National Security Council, worries that also were expressed by other Pentagon officials. So they're saying Kane been saying this before, and other people said it. Just like I said earlier, people around the world are doing these podcasts. There's what will war with Iran look like? It's like not good. Basically that's what everybody's saying. It says the Washington Post reported that Kane cautioned that any major military operation in Iran could face hurdles due to a low stockpile of ammo. Okay, and that's how Esau that is in. All right, because he was blessed with the sword, and this dude don't even have enough ammo to finish a war. This is what they're saying. All right, it says further depleted by the U.S. backing of Ukraine in the ongoing defense of Israel. It says none of the reports noted that Kane was against the U.S. going to war against Iran. But he cautioned it. And that's my thing. He didn't say that. Like we know he didn't say that. And I didn't hear anyone say this. It said none of the reports noted that Kane was against the U.S. going to war against Iran. It says Kane has presented Trump and other top national security officials in recent days a range of strike options The U.S. Sake brothers and sisters, says officials in recent days a range of strike options the U.S. military could execute against Iran. A source familiar with the matter told The Hill. Okay, let me see. It says Kane has presented Trump and other top national security officials in recent days a range of strike options the U.S. military could execute against Iran. Listen, it's going to have to be boots on the ground. Now, I'm no military expert, but what they're saying before they had a target, they wanted to strike the military nuclear capabilities of Iran. So they put the B-2 bombers with the bombs and struck the bases, which Trump said was obliterated. But now Israel is pushing for regime change and just taking over. So you're not going to just bomb the whole Iran or nuke Iran, unless that's what you're going to do. But other than that, you have to go in, boots on the ground. It's going to be a war, all right? Because there's no target anymore. And that was my first thing when they was talking about going back. I'm like, wait a minute, what's the targets this time? You don't have targets to bomb, so then you have to go in and get to work. It says Trump on Monday praised Kane as knowing Iran well and for being the architect of the U.S. bombing of Iran's three premier nuclear sites last June, an operation known as Midnight Hammer. He has not spoken of not doing Iran or even the fake limited strikes that I have been reading about. He only knows one thing: how to win, and if he is told to do so, he will be leading the pack. So General Kane's going to do what he's told to do, which is understandable, unless he steps down or something. It says on Friday, the president said he was considering limited strikes, but then there goes your pension and everything else, like Trump said in that meeting with the War Secretary Pete Hegseth. It says on Friday, the president said he was considering limited strikes against Iran if the negotiations over the country's nuclear program failed. All right, so I mean, it's just that. So yeah, this guy cautioned against the war. All right, and then I asked Google. I said, did General Kane of the U.S. warn or caution against Iran war? This is what AI told me. It says, as of February 2026, reports indicate that Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Daniel Kane, has advised President Trump of significant risk regarding a potential war with Iran, focusing on dangers of a prolonged conflict, regional instability, and depleted, ammo, basically. All right, like weapon capabilities, bullets, bombs, and things like that. Says, while described by some as a reluctant warrior on this issue, President Trump has disputed these accounts, stating the general believes any conflict will be easily won. And that's like a complete different thing to what bro said. So, Esau Edom, the pride of his heart have deceived him. That's why the Most High Yahweh Bashmiel Rashai said that he will confound these devils. A cruel Lord is ruling. All right. And he's being dragged into this war by the small hats, and they're using blackmail against him. That's all in the scriptures, right? Jeremiah 15:45, the least of the flock shall go out, drag them into the war. Habakkuk 2, right down there at 15, where it says, woe unto you that give, your neighbor drink that you may look on their nakedness. That's what they did, blackmail. Right? So the scriptures is all planned out. And then you have this dude that's just, he don't understand. Isaiah 19:3. It says, and the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst of it. Let me see this in here. He says the Egyptians will lose heart. And it goes into it too. Because think about it. They're like, they're warning against the war. It's not looking good. All that pride, America, and all of that is dwindling, is going down. It says, and the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof. This man, Trump said the war can be easily won. It's just even them moving back the ship, just a lot of things happen. And at one point, they was about to attack Iran. They ran away or something. I did a video on it, Like, everybody was like, what happened? Says, and I mean, look how many ships he got out there. They said this is the biggest group of ships since such and such. If it was easy, bro, what it's gonna be a problem yourself. You got all this firepower out there. And the spirit of Egypt shall fill in the midst thereof, and I will destroy. And that's the scriptures too, right? I'll remove far from you the northern army, all right, and bring them to a land barren and desolate. Go look where they at right now, gathering. Middle East, what you call the Middle East. It says, and the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards. So they're not listening to, their general, that obviously, you got to know something, saying, look, I'm cautioning this war. Just letting you know it ain't gonna be easy. And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, said the Lord Yahweh outside the Lord of hosts. All right, and that's what's happening right here. With this dude. And that's why I got these few scriptures right here. And I'll play the video because never ever have you ever heard any American talk about let's not do this. Let's not go to war. Jeremiah 51:30, it says, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holes. Even though I remember when J.D. Vance was talking to some people, a question they was asking him was about, I believe it was about war or World War III or just going to war. And it was like college students, Edomites, of course. It was like, men, Edomite males. And they didn't want to go to war, basically, And then J.D. Vance was kind of like, we're not shooting for war. But he said, but if we did go to war, I would expect you guys to fight, whatever the case may be. And that's what you have, draft, the military draft, or people just sign up for the military. No one's signing up for the military no more. These at least, I guess, these Edomite males, shit, you might have shit, Jake probably not messing with them either no more, too. All right, Jake ain't stupid. All hell breaking loose right now. Jeremiah 51:30 says, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holes. It might have failed. They became as women. They have burned her dwelling places. Her bars are broken. All right. And they just forborne to fight, became as women. And this is a good one right here. I wouldn't get it. Nahum 3, read 11 on down. It says, thou also shalt be drunken. Nahum 3:11. Thou also shalt be drunken. Thou shalt be hid. Thou also shalt seek strength because of the enemy. Right? And this is talking about Babylon. Babylon is seeking strength because of the enemy. Now look, how many ships the man got over there talking about? The war can be easily won. All right. All thy strongholds shall be like fig trees with the first ripe figs. If they be shaken, they shall even fall into the mouth of the eater. Right? And that's going to be Iran, Russia, and everybody joined with them. All right. Behold, thy people in the midst of thee are women. The gates of thy land shall be set wide open to thine enemies. The fire shall devour thy bars. Yeah, you got a lot of weak, effeminate men going in the army too. All this LGBTQ and all of this. You got the women in the army. What the hell? It says, draw thee waters for the siege, fortify thy strongholds. Go into clay and tread the mortar, make strong the brick. They holding off on this attack because they're waiting on that one great ship they're trying to bring over there that's having toilet problems because it's like 4,000 troops on there. 4,000 troops on that one ship that's coming over there. And they already got so many ships over there. And don't forget them, they already got military bases over there with them evacuating some of the areas that's close by. So if it's so easy, bro, why are you evacuating the troops in the area? And I mean, I'm just saying that because, the pride is devil, bro. If your general is cautioning the war, what's the problem? Even we, in time past in our history, We asked the Lord, like, should we do this? Should we not do this? How, says, Nahum 3 and 14, draw thee waters for the siege, fortify thy strongholds, go into clay and tread the mortar, make strong the brickwork. There shall the fire devour thee, the sword shall cut thee off. It shall eat thee up like the cankerworm. Make thyself many as the cankerworm. Make thyself many as the locust. Going into a draft. Trying to get more troops joined unto you. That's how you fortify yourself, make yourself strong. Yeah, bro. I was saying if they cloning people, go ahead and clone you some troops. Since y'all cloning, that would make the most sense to me. But I don't think they can do that. Says, thou hast multiplied thy merchants above the stars of heaven. The cankerworm spoileth and flieth away. Thy crown are as the locusts, and thy captains as the great grasshoppers, which camp in the hedges in the cold day. But when the sun arises, they flee away. Now, this general, for instance, this dude, I would just sound like, damn, he must have fought in a lot of wars. I didn't look him up. I don't really care. If another situation or whatever, but it ain't really needed. He's a top general. He said something, he cautioned against the war. But he probably fought many wars, this, that, and the third. So he got to know something. And now the sun's coming up. He's like, this ain't it. And mind you, a lot of other people stepped down already. They knew what time it was. They was already stepping down because of what was coming. Right? It says, thy crown are as the locusts, and thy captains as the great grasshoppers, which camp in the hedges in the cold day. But when the sun arises, they flee away, and their place is not known where they are. Right? And we still, I seen a video I was watching earlier where they was saying that Israel was talking about on the eve of Purim. They might do something. That's like March 3rd or something like that. It's in a week or so, for them. We'll have to see. So I was gonna say they still have time for more people to dip. We'll see what happens and leave. It says NOT, your guards and officials are also like a swarm of locusts. They crowd together in the hedges on a cold day. So when it's just chilling, they ain't really doing nothing. Even that dude, he didn't when he was going against Venezuela, it's like, oh, no problem. No problem. Then he dropped the bombs, the bunker buster bombs, like no problem. But now it's you about to actually get to war, boots on the ground, prolonged war, heavy casualties. He's like, nah. Says your guards and officials are also like swarming locusts that crowd together in the hedges on a cold day. But like locusts, they fly away when the sun comes up. All of them fly away and disappear. That's what happened too when they was having those little meetings with the defense secretary and all of that, war secretary. Um, people was like, okay, well, I'll just leave. And we said that is key. This is now the time for any brothers, sisters, anybody in the military to get the hell out of there. The doors was open for you to leave. All right. So, hey, the Lord is merciful. We telling you, you're gonna fight Yahushua in this World War III. If you still in the army, you're gonna fight in World War III. Yahushua he's gonna obliterate you. So the Most High made a way out. All right. And that's a good thing. Paul Halal Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. All right. It says thy shepherd slumbered, O king of Assyria, thy nobles shall dwell in the dust. Thy people is scattered upon the mountains, and no man gathered them. Now he's stretched all over too. Your shepherds are asleep, O Assyrian king. Your princes lie dead in the dust. Your people are scattered across the mountains with no one to gather them together. We go into, just different people dying, the captains leaving, all these different things. But also this man is scattered all over the world. He's in Venezuela. I heard Venezuelans are getting like armed troops to try to do something. He's in Mexico. Got a lot happening. It says, there is no healing of thy bruise, thy wound is grievous. All that hear the he shall clap the hands of thee, for upon whom have not thy wickedness passed continually. Right? So everyone's going to be happy when this devil finally goes down. Right? Because it's not like he was just good to the people. You know, he oppressed the whole world, took resources, right? Polluted the land, the customs of the people, right? All of that.
The just society. Donald Trump is having to encounter new setbacks with regards to his mad desperation to attack Iran every single day. Now, the deranged occupant of the White House is having to issue a desperate clarification stating that his top general was not against the idea of invading Iran. This will be the broad focus of my video tonight. Also, in tonight's video, a look at the BBC's glaring dishonesty and why its BAFTA coverage is earning this rogue organization global condemnation. So please stay tuned. If you remember, Trump's plans to please his Israeli masters by illegally invading Iran have seen several setbacks up until now. First, Trump's Jewish envoy, Steve Witkoff, publicly revealed the US president's miscalculation on Iran by stating that the Islamic Republic's refusal to capitulate, even in the face of massive military buildup, had left Trump frustrated. His word, not mine. Then came the news of America's biggest aircraft carrier, USS Gerald Ford, facing an unimaginable crisis following the blocked sewage and clogged toilets. And if this wasn't enough, a top US general, the topmost US general, was quoted as expressing his opposition to the planned military strikes against Iran. Do not underestimate the importance of this news. And this news has been reported not by one, but two big US publications, namely the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal. They quoted General Daniel Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff. You have Navy Chief, Army Chief, Air Force Chief, and then the Chief of Joint Chiefs. So Daniel Kane is that person. There is no one more senior than him in the US military. He was quoted by these two publications as saying that the decision to attack Iran would result in massive losses for the US military. According to him, war plans being considered by Trump carry risks, including US and allied casualties. Pay attention to his warning. He's saying that any decision to attack Iran will result in heavy casualties for American forces. And then he says depleted air defenses. Can you imagine? Depleted air defenses. So no Patriot, no THAAD, no Iron Dome is going to help following Iranian retaliation. Faced with this warning from his topmost general, Trump took to social media to issue an urgent clarification. He wrote a lengthy post on his personal social media platform called Truth Social, and I quote, "Numerous stories from the fake news media have been circulating stating that General Daniel Kane, sometimes referred to as Raisin, is against us going to war with Iran. The story does not attribute this vast wealth of knowledge to anyone and is 100% incorrect. General Kane, like all of us, would like not to see war, but if a decision is made on going against Iran at a military level, it is his opinion that it will be something easily won. He knows Iran well, in that he was in charge of Midnight Hammer, the attack on the Iranian nuclear development. It is a development no longer, but rather was blown to smithereens by our great B-2 bombers. Raisin Kane is a great fighter and represents the most powerful military anywhere in the world. He has not spoken of not doing Iran or even the fake limited strikes that I have been reading about. He only knows one thing, how to win, and if he is told to do so, he will be leading the pack. Everything that has been written about a potential war with Iran has been written incorrectly and purposefully so. I am the one that makes the decision. I would rather have a deal than not. But if we don't make a deal, it will be a very bad day for that country and very sadly its people, because they are great and wonderful and something like this should never have happened to them. End quote. Still, no denial from General Kane. I mean, he's not an ordinary guy. He is the Joint Chief. I mean, Chief of the Joint Chiefs. And yet, he has not issued any denial. Iranian and US representatives are set to hold the third round of talks in Geneva on Thursday this week. Witkoff this week told Fox News that Iran was just a week away from making a nuclear bomb. The same claim about Iran's nuclear capability has been made for over 40 years, first by war criminal wanted by the International Criminal Court Benjamin Netanyahu, and then pro-Israeli propaganda outlets such as the New York Times. Now, even American media outlets are making fun of such ludicrous claims. Watch legendary American TV host Jon Stewart. And by the way, John is a proud Jew, so you can't even use or play your anti-Semitism card here.
The drumbeat of a possible war with Iran growing louder.
The largest assembly of U.S. forces in the Middle East that we've seen in years.
One report is saying we are days away from strikes.
Days away from war. Usually when we get into war in the Middle East, there's a Marty Supreme level press rollout. Months and months of endless promotion, interviews, manufactured intelligence. They got weapons of mass destruction. Schwap. Until finally, we acquiesce to the war, just in the hopes that the selling of it will stop. And because it seems vaguely charming. But this war, one day it's nothing, and the next day we filled their waterway with...
Fair use, fair use. I'm not making any money from this.
Giant ships. Why? What's the urgency?
Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has this warning about it.
That was the point, actually, that I wanted to get from here, too, and I'll just end it off with that. I'll play it again. Because he said, what's the urgency? He said, one day nothing, and the next day, bomb. And there's the picture.
Of a possible war with Iran growing louder.
The largest assembly of U.S. forces in the Middle East that we've seen in years.
One report is saying we are days away from strikes.
Days away from war. Usually when we get into war in the Middle East, there's a Marty Supreme level press rollout. Months and months of endless promotion, interviews, manufactured intelligence. They got weapons of mass destruction. Schwap. Until finally, we acquiesce to the war, just in the hopes that the selling of it will stop. And because it seems vaguely charming. But this war, one day it's nothing, and the next day we filled their waterway with giant ships. Why? What's the urgency?
Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has this warning about Iran's nuclear power.
They're probably a week away from having industrial grade bomb-making material.
Oh my God. An atomic bomb by Monday?
Yeah, so y'all can check this out. It's pretty interesting, dude. It's pretty funny. I'll get Joel too. You see how he said that? It's like one day nothing, the next day everything is over there. Joel 2 and 20. Says, but I will remove far off from you the northern army and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, with his face toward the east sea and his hinder part toward the utmost sea. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he hath done great things. All right, and that's right over there in the Middle East. Okay. We grab Revelations 12 and 12. It says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. So they're moving with urgency to get this thing done. All right. So, Lord willing, you are edified from the lesson. Shalom to the hopeful elect, which consists of men, women, and children. Shalom.